I never imagined I'd witness a full-blown public meltdown up close. But there I was, just trying to catch a flight to Chicago when it happened. The infamous airport Karen debacle, unfolding right in front of me. It was a hectic Tuesday morning at Denver International, and the security line was a nightmare stretching all the way back to the main terminal entrance. People were restless, checking the time, and inching forward with the resigned patience of travelers everywhere. That's when I saw her. A woman in her 50s, flawlessly styled blonde hair, oversized designer sunglasses, indoors mind you, and a scowl sharp enough to cut glass. Without any warning, she emerged from somewhere midline, yanking along a Louis Vuitton roller bag and striding straight to the front. "Excuse me, important person coming through," she declared loudly, brushing past a confused elderly couple. "I don't wait in lines, I lead them." Murmurs rippled through the crowd as she shoved forward, even bumping into a mom pushing a stroller. When a man in a suit gently asked her to head back to her place, she flashed what looked like some kind of badge and muttered, "Pines Estate, executive clearance." The poor guy just stared, baffled, as she kept marching forward. TSA agents, noticing the disturbance, quickly stepped in. One addressed her calmly but firmly. "Ma'am, please return to the back of the line like everyone else." And then came the fireworks. Standing all of 5'4", she straightened up and glared at the agent like he'd personally insulted her lineage. "Do you know who I am?" she shrieked, loud enough to make nearby kids plug their ears. "I manage a $30 million property community. I don't stand in peasant lines." Yes, she actually used the word peasant. At an airport. In 2025, the TSA agents exchanged looks and the rest of us stood frozen, unable to believe what we were seeing. Karen wasn't backing down. She whipped out her phone and started. "Recording. I'm documenting this harassment. You'll be hearing from my lawyer." I was floored. She kept brandishing her HOA badge like it gave her federal authority. Having briefly served on my own neighborhood association before quitting over people exactly like her, I knew the type. Drunk on a thimbleful of power, convinced managing pool hours and grass length made her untouchable. The older TSA agent tried, again patiently. "Ma'am, your HOA role doesn't entitle you to special treatment. This is a federal security checkpoint. Everyone follows the same rules." That only enraged her more. She jabbed a manicured finger in his face, nearly poking. His eye. "I have contacts at the top. Your supervisor's supervisor will be hearing about this. Now move. I have a leadership retreat to attend." By then, a small crowd had formed. Phones came out discreetly. The line had stalled completely. Karen, aware of the attention, seemed to dial it up, feeding off the spotlight. When a younger, female TSA agent stepped in with a clipboard, Karen groaned. "Oh great, more red tape. I already deal with enough bureaucracy." "I just need your ID and boarding pass," the agent said, unfazed. Karen dug through her luxury handbag with exaggerated frustration and slapped down her ID and a crumpled boarding pass. "Happy now? Some of us have actual responsibilities." "Ours." The agent examined the documents. Karen tapped her foot impatiently, glaring at anyone who dared look her way. I happened to catch a glimpse of her boarding pass. She was headed to Orlando. Probably to that leadership retreat she kept referencing. Given my experience with HOA dictators, I could guess the retreat's content. Seminars on how to better micromanage mailbox colors or crack down on unapproved Christmas lights. When it was finally time for her to walk through the body scanner, she put up one last protest. "I'm not going through that cancer machine." "I have a medical exemption," Karen declared when asked to go through the body scanner. Naturally, the TSA agents requested proof of this exemption, proof she conveniently didn't have. "It's on file with the TSA," she insisted, though it clearly wasn't. After a bit of back and forth, she reluctantly agreed to the alternative, a pat-down, but not before making a big show of checking her watch and sighing like a Broadway actress. This is exactly why America is falling behind. Too much security theater, not enough actual efficiency, she muttered loudly enough for all of us to hear. But things got even weirder. As she walked through the metal detector, it let out a sharp beep. "Ma'am, do you have any metal on you?" the agent asked. Karen looked personally offended. "Just my keys and some jewelry, nothing significant." When asked to empty her pockets, she outright refused. "These are Tiffany earrings. I'm not putting them in one of those filthy plastic bins where someone could snatch them." By now, the crowd was clearly losing patience. A line that wrapped nearly the length of the terminal was at a standstill because this woman believed her position as HOA president somehow trumped TSA protocol. I checked my own watch. My flight was less than an hour away, and I hadn't even gotten through security yet. Around me, other travelers were starting to panic, whispering to each other about tight connections and delayed departures. Then Karen, seemingly fed up with a mess of her own making, decided to take matters into her own hands. She grabbed her bag and tried to walk past the agents. "I'm done with this nonsense. I'm going to miss my flight because of your incompetence," she snapped. The TSA agents quickly stepped in to block her path. That's when her voice hit a shrill peak. "Don't you dare touch me. This is assault. I know my rights." The shouting finally drew airport police. 2 officers showed up, their faces unreadable but clearly familiar with this kind of drama. "What seems to be the issue here?" the taller one asked, glancing between Karen and the TSA team. Before anyone else could answer, Karen launched into her version of events. "They're targeting me because I'm a respected community leader. This is abuse of power. They're holding me here just to flex their authority." The officer listened politely, then turned to the TSA agents, who calmly explained what had actually happened. Once he had the full picture, the officer turned back to Karen. "Ma'am, you need to comply with standard security procedures like everyone else. If you don't, we'll have no choice but to remove you from the area. You may also face further consequences." Instead of backing down, Karen doubled down. "Do you have any idea how many lawyers are in my HOA? 17. And they owe me favors for signing off on their home additions." She whipped out her phone again, this time placing a call. "I'm getting the head of airport security on the line. My neighbor golfs with him every Sunday," she said proudly. The 2 officers exchanged a look, one that said this was far from their first Karen encounter. Then the taller one spoke again. "Ma'am, this is your final warning. Either follow the procedures, or you'll be arrested for interfering with the federal security process." His voice was calm but clearly meant business. He was offering her a final exit ramp. "Karen?" She laughed, actually laughed in their faces. Then without warning, she tried to slip past them. What happened next unfolded quickly but smoothly. Both officers stepped in, each taking one of her arms. "Ma'am, you are under arrest for interfering with security, screening procedures, and for failure to comply with law enforcement instructions." As the officers began cuffing her, Karen's eyes widened in disbelief, like it had never once crossed her mind that her behavior might lead to actual consequences. "You can't arrest me. I'm the president of Whispering Pines HOA. We have 3 pools and a tennis court," she cried, as though listing neighborhood amenities might sway federal law enforcement. Her designer sunglasses slipped from her face and hit the floor with a clatter, followed by her still recording phone. As the officers read her rights and guided her away from the checkpoint, the entire terminal seemed to hold its breath. Her expression shifted rapidly, from fury to confusion and finally fear. "This is a mistake. A huge mistake," she shouted as they led her through the terminal. "You'll all be hearing from my HOA newsletter." Her voice trailed off as they rounded a corner, presumably heading toward a security office. The silence broke as the crowd erupted into light applause and relieved murmurs. The TSA agents reset quickly, and the security line resumed its crawl with newfound speed and order. Later, while I waited at my gate, I overheard fellow passengers rehashing the incident. One person, who had been closer to the scene, said Karen was facing charges of disorderly conduct, resisting arrest, and interfering with federal security, serious offenses. Another passenger who claimed to work at the airport added that the event had already been reported to TSA headquarters and that Karen would likely be placed on a temporary no-fly list. About 3 weeks later, I was casually scrolling through local news when her name popped up again. Karen Whitfield had been convicted on all counts. The judge handed her 6 months of probation, 40 hours of community service, and a $5,000 fine. She was also banned from flying commercially for a full year. The article included a statement from the Whispering Pines HOA board announcing her immediate removal as president, citing behavior inconsistent with the standards and values of our community. To top it off, she was ordered to attend anger management classes and reimburse the TSA for the disruption, an estimated $10,000 in operational delays and passenger compensation. The article ended with a quote from Karen herself given outside the courthouse. "This is a total injustice. I was just defending my rights as a community leader. This never would have happened if I weren't a strong woman in a position of power." Even after everything, she still didn't understand. Her HOA board had already appointed her replacement. HOAs, homeowners associations, play an important role in maintaining property values, enforcing community standards, and managing shared amenities like pools, parks, and security. When run well, they help keep neighborhoods clean, organized, and desirable. However, they can also be overly restrictive, charge mandatory fees, and cause frustration if managed poorly or by power-hungry board members. Their importance largely depends on how effectively and fairly they operate.